on this fine Tuesday morning. Welcome to another edition of Bunker Office Hours, a weekly podcast brought to you by the team at Bunker Labs, National Network of Veteran and Military Spouse Entrepreneurs dedicated to helping our ecosystem start and grow their own businesses. I'm your host, the one and only Iron Mike Steadman, coming to you from Newark, New Jersey. We're joined by my co-host, Amy Morrison, and our guest today, Christopher Wysong from Bucket of Bread. What's going on, y'all?
Howdy.
So I'm gonna jumping in the chat here. I gotta switch my little LinkedIn. Amy, as I do that, you want to talk about what's going on in the bunker?
Yeah, sure. So this week, we are going to be talking about this extensively today, but Bunker Labs Holiday Gift Guide has been released, and it features 60 plus products from the veteran and military spouse-owned businesses in our community. And then let's see, we've got a lot of them are offering 20% discount. So if you want to check out the marketplace holiday gift guide, whatever you want to call it, it's at bunkerlabs.org/marketplace-2022. Then we got Veterans in Residence Showcase is coming up on December 7th across 34 cities, and that's showcasing the 500 plus veterans and military spouse entrepreneurs who did our Veterans in Residence. Well, it's the last cohort, and then we're bringing in the new cohort, so that's the 500. And then that's all across the country. So you can check that out at bunkerlabs.org/veterans-showcase and sign up for a city near you. And then we also have a couple virtual events if you can't get to one IRL. And then finally, just want to let everyone know that our end of year giving campaign is happening. So if you want to help us continue to provide free programming and content, you can donate. Your gift is tax deductible, and you can go to bunkerlabs.org/end of year giving. Link is probably going to be in the chat. And that just helps us provide free programs to our community. And that is what's going on this week.
Now, one thing we have to do, we do got to acknowledge, if I'm not mistaken, CEO Circle was in New York City last week. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, so CEO Circle, they had their capstone last year's cohort. It's an annual cohort of CEO Circle, did their capstone, and then the new cohort launched this last week in New York City at JP Morgan Chase's headquarters. And we kind of took over their headquarters. So we got to put up all our stuff in the lobby, and there was a marketplace for some of the product businesses. And I think Feldman's of New York, the hot dog company that was part of CEO Circle, took over the cafeteria. So
that's great.
Yeah, that was fun.
Love it, man. Love seeing so many veteran entrepreneurs and military spouses out there winning. And it's a blessing to be able to have platforms like this, have cohorts like the CEO Circle and Ambassador Program and Veterans in Residence to make people feel supported, especially during this challenging economic time. And I'm going to talk about that a little later, but I don't want to steal my man Chris's thunder. So without further ado, I would love you to go ahead and introduce yourself to the Bunker Labs audience and let them know what you've got going on with Bucket of Bread.
Well, hi, my name is Chris Wysong, and I am the owner and founder of Bucket of Bread at bucketofbread.com. And what I've done is I've created these blends of certified organic flours. I've put them in these 100% recyclable buckets. You get them home, you add 3 cups of lukewarm water, and the next thing you know, 2 to 3 hours later, you've got about 4 pounds of dough that's just ready to use. You can make bread, pizza, cinnamon buns, garlic knots, breadsticks, pretzels, bagels. You can fry it as a donut, really whatever you want to use it for. And the best part about this dough is that your buckets can last up to 2 weeks in the fridge. So now it's like meal prep for baking. And you just pull out your bucket, reach in, grab a handful, and turn it into whatever you want, or use some of the recipes on my website. So that's the basics of it.
I have to ask, how did you get into bread making?
So the way I sort of got into this was that growing up, my mom was always like, okay, well, let's get you to know how to cook a little bit. So I became more or less an avid cook. I ended up being able to fend for myself when I reached adulthood. And then I have fine-tuned my methods and making dinners and things like that, and eventually had this way of making bread. It's not anything new or fancy. It's just an old way of doing it, repackaged. And one day I woke up in the middle of the night and said, hey, all the things you've been doing, you could put it in a bucket and then use that as a platform to help people. So the thing I haven't mentioned is that the gist behind this business adventure is that I'm taking at least 10% of my profits and dedicating those to charities combating hunger and fighting food insecurity in America.
I love that, man. That's super powerful. And you see that over and over again in our space of us using business as an opportunity to create both social and economic impact. And so, we got a lot of people tuning in today. What was the hardest part about getting Bucket of Bread off the ground?
Oh man, so one of the first things I did when I had this idea was I formed the LLC, and then I made the phone call to the local university's Small Business Development Center, which if anybody out there has an idea or wants to get a resource that helps you get going, it's that SBDC at your local level. Once you get your business plan put together, the finding of the locations for me was the hardest part because fortunately for me, in my area, I found a sort of like an incubator business building, but I had to do a lot of renovations. So I'm bootstrapping this whole adventure. So the renovations were a little costly because I had to pass certain food grade quality inspections, make sure that it was insurable, and all of those things that took a little bit of extra time that, because I've never really done this before, I didn't plan for, but it ended up happening. And within a few months, I was able to be up and running.
That's amazing. Now, is this your first venture or have you launched other things before?
So as soon as I finished up with college, I thought I'd play around with a little bit of a part-time business adventure. So while I was still serving, this was in the Des Moines, Iowa area, I had opened up a small little business, just thinking, maybe this will be fun. I wanted something that was a little nichey and didn't have much, just something to keep me busy. So I created a little magic shop and was the only magic shop in the Des Moines area region. And did that for about a year and a half until my son was born. And I surprisingly made some pretty cool sales off of that. But I down with a magic as it just vanished as quickly as it appeared.
It's all right. Cost of doing business, right? That's what comes with entrepreneurship. But you're still here, got this new business off the ground. And you're also a member of our veterans and residents cohort. And one of the things we're talking about today is we're heading into the holiday season. Why is it important you think people should support veteran-owned small business owners?
Well, the reason I think is because, we've done something and we've dedicated a piece of our lives to doing something for the good of the nation. And I think if the modern day public were to support us in our adventures as civilians, then I think that is just something good. It's a good all the way around supporting a small business and hoping that support then turns us into the next big thing.
What's it been like being able to get reconnected with so many amazing veteran entrepreneurs all across the country as a veterans in residence?
So one of the things that I saw here recently is the Bunker Labs put out a what did you get out of Bunker Labs, or what did you find at Bunker Labs? It was a little video post, and I kind of reflected on that a little bit. And one thing I have to say that I really find very useful from the Bunker Labs experience is that I found some direction for my purpose. I've created this bucket of bread at bucketofbread.com, but Bunker Labs was able to help me gain that direction by holding me accountable, because every week we get together and I say what I'm going to do, or I say what I want to do, or kind of walk through the steps of things I'm working on. And then the rest of my cohorts are doing the same. And what's nice is that the following week after I've said that, I feel obligated to hold myself accountable. And I think that's really, really a powerful tool that Bunker Labs offers us, because solopreneurs or veteranpreneurs that are doing this bootstrap thing by ourselves, we kind of need that. And it's really useful. So I'm very grateful.
Yeah, it's also cool to know you're not going through it alone, right? So to be able
Exactly.
to show up on a live session, other entrepreneurs are vulnerable. I'm in a lot of different like coaching groups and things. And I was in one of my coaching groups yesterday, and one of my cohort members, she got very emotional crying because it's just been so hard for her lately. But we just reassured her. We're like, you're good. This is what this is for, And I think one thing, there's all this talk about mental health and a lot of that's going on, right? Especially coming out of the pandemic. But for entrepreneurs, we carry our businesses on our sleeves, right? We live and breathe it. And this stuff is really, really hard. So to have people you could come around and be vulnerable with, it's priceless.
I have to agree to that completely. There's been things that are outside the business. We're sharing with each other that like the things in our personal lives that we're walking through, and being able to just immediately bond with a group of people it's just an amazing, powerful tool it's worth its weight in gold.
Now, I want to give some shout out to Joshua and Simon. Appreciate y'all joining into the chat. And what I would love our audience to do is let's ask Chris some questions about his business model, right? Particularly around, I'll start. Okay, first off, how did you validate that there was a market need for the product that you're selling?
Okay, so how did I validate that? Well, one of the things is through that SBDC, the Small Business Development Center at the local university, the University of Wisconsin in La Crosse, Wisconsin. I talked to them and got that business plan going, but then they took that business plan and assigned it to MBA students across the state. And what was really nice is they were able to analyze that on different levels. And some of the marketing folks came back with some really interesting information that said, this could be something. And they went into a deep dive, into some really big 2.7 billion market size, deep stuff across the global side. And I was able to kind of fine tune that, take my product conceptually and bring it to some farmers markets where then people were buying it, leaving great reviews on Google. And I'm then, after that first year of proof of concept, able to say, you know what, now it's time to take this a little bit further. Maybe I should spend some money on advertising. I'll put my name out there. I should join some organizations like Bunker Labs and see where I can take this. And that's just kind of the progression that I'm starting to realize.
One LinkedIn user wants to know, how did you know where to find the Small Business Development Center? Who's the trusted resource in your community where you can find resources to help businesses start and scale?
So another source that I've been able to connect with is the local name of your city Chamber of Commerce. And you don't necessarily have to be a member of them to say, hey, I've got this idea. What's a direction I can take this? And they'll connect you to that. Then there's, the simple, just grab that state university and see the general helpline and say, hey, I'd like to talk to this, or just get a hold of your Small Business Administration number. There's also the SCORE network. If you haven't heard of those, you can go to SCORE. I believe it's a .org, but there's just a simple form you can fill out, and they can connect you to a mentor that is specialized in the field of the topic you're trying to research, whether that's a marketing or a finding or things like that.
I want to follow up on what Chris said, and I actually owe y'all a blog post or a podcast about this. There's so many great resources at a lot of the state schools, right? The community colleges as well. They have consultant practicums. So you'll have MBA students that are looking to get into consulting. And so part of their class project, they'll work with a small business, right? And so I've done that multiple times with Rutgers here. I've done it with NYU, right? That's a great resource. They have these transactional lawyering clinics for nonprofits where they'll work with a local nonprofit. I got my 501c3 status set up with a $25 check, and I worked with Rutgers law students to do that. You've got the Service Corps of Retired Executives, SCORE, where they will go over a business plan with you. So there are a lot of resources for you all out there that might not necessarily be in these major metropolitan areas where we have all these fancy incubators and things, but definitely check out your universities in the state and see what programs and things they're offering and how you can start connecting with people on LinkedIn, because there is a movement to provide more access to these programs for veterans. I can tell you that. Michael Persinger wants to know, coming from a city life that is really good bread, I understand the want for this. Nothing better than warm bread with some butter. Is there any special equipment you need to make this, or just a standard oven?
So no, what's really nice about my product in particular is all you have to do is you order your bucket, you get your bucket. If you have a stand mixer with a hook on it, that's super easy, but you can mix it by hand with a wooden spoon. Typically, I like to flip it upside down so it's just a stick, and you just really reach in, mix it all up till there's nothing dry left, and then you rest the lid on top, and it turns into a dough. You don't have to do any kneading. There's no extra work. All you have to do is use your imagination or grab some of the recipe ideas from my website to get started. And then for the next couple of weeks, you've got some great experiments to eat.
That's great. Now, one thing that I'm curious to know, okay, you validate your business model with the pop-ups. My girlfriend is a maker here in New York City, so I go to the pop-ups. It's hard work, all right? But you're there, you're doing the pop-ups, you're driving revenue. Talk to us about the shift from just the pop-ups to launching the e-commerce, because one thing I give a lot of my branding clients is when they do those pop-ups, I tell them it's super important to make sure that they are capturing emails, because a lot of times the pop-ups are actually like a marketing angle as well.
So for me, I would say I typically spend a 12 to 15 hour day just living my bucket of bread dream here. And a lot of that time is monitoring the emails. I've got notifications that pop up on my phone if an order comes through or whatnot. But my routine is to address a production line, because like I said, I am doing this myself so far. I can produce about 100 of these buckets per day, ready for shipment the next. And if I get beyond if I were to get beyond 500 buckets a month, I would probably reach out and start looking into hiring additional personnel and growing naturally from that. But the pop-ups were great because whether it was a farmer's market or a craft fair or a high school event here or there where they let me come in, it exposed my idea. It allowed me to talk about it. It allowed me to get comfortable with my own self and being out there with a product that's completely new. I had mentioned that the marketing students from the SBDC's business plan review had said some good things. One of the things they said was that you're going to find it because you're presenting something that really quite doesn't exist anywhere else. We can find dough mixes to compare you to, but there's nothing out there like this that you mix up in the container that it comes in, and then you've got something that's super easy and fun to use. So what I have to do now is talk to people, expose them to a new concept, thing, old bread, and really get that out there. And it's been a positive experience. People are receptive. And like I said, feedback is great. So I'm super lucky. I'm very grateful.
That's great. Some advice. I want you to get a book called Play Bigger by Christopher Lochhead. It's behind me on my shelf. How pirates, dreamers, and innovators create and dominate markets. And essentially, it's going to teach you the process of what's called category design. So when the marketing students say you're creating something that doesn't exist yet, they're essentially telling you that you created a new category. And people think in terms of categories. So when I walk to the grocery store and it's like, okay, I want ketchup, where's the condiment aisle? Then you go in the condiment aisle and then you look for brands. Okay, where's Heinz, right? Boom, 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 you grab the ketchup. Where a lot of us make the mistake as veteran entrepreneurs is we focus heavily on brand instead of thinking about the market and the category first. What you want to do is you want to create the market, right, for your product and position your product in that market, right? So, bucket of bread is a great name, but your category might be something along the lines of, I don't know, sustainable packaged bread, SPB, right? It's like, oh, what the heck is an SPB? Now you start telling the story about it and people look to you, et cetera, et cetera. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense, and I'm excited to look into that book. I wrote that note down. What I'm happy about with this product idea and the way the marketing works is I think I've really created something that is the thing since sliced bread. I don't use any preservatives. There's everything pronounceable in it. There is no oils, no fats, no dairy, no egg, no sugar. It's completely vegan friendly. And it'll be interesting to read this book and compare that concept and see how I can focus and drive and concept to customers and future customers.
As long as it's not trademarked, that could be a great slogan for you. This is the best thing since sliced bread, literally. You know,
Well, I
something
think it's a pretty common saying, so we're good to go there.
All right, I got one last question before we go to book recommendations. Natasha Hines wants to know, do you run social media ads? If so, which platforms are most successful at finding your customers? And do you have a lot of repeat customers?
So first question on social media ads, I have not really started truly advertising yet. I've played around with some advertising when I first had the idea, and I just on my own went into Facebook and I spent like $50 in a month or something like that, just to kind of experiment. And I really didn't see anything there, but I blame myself because, you know, I don't know everything. And now this year, I'm getting ready to do some real advertising. I just had some professional photography for still photos done, and I just had some professional video taken. And I should have something probably within the next few days that'll be turned into digital focused, real advertising. And I'm excited to see where that adventure takes me.
I think you would kill it just teaching. I think you
would
say
that
just kill
again.
It. I think you would kill it just teaching. Like teaching people how you make your bread, showing them behind the scenes of how you do it. If you just did it on your iPhone and make TikTok videos and stuff, I think you'd probably kill it.
Yeah, if you do go to my website, you have those icons for all the social media. There is a TikTok there. I do try to put stuff up on everything, and you'll see. And if you go to any of those social media sites, you'll see little posts here and there from me. And I do try to do some behind the scenes stuff. You might catch me live on TikTok making buckets one day. But as far as that second question goes for repeat,
no, go ahead.
Oh yeah, repeat customers. So at those markets, those pop-up markets where I can recognize a face, it's people that do come back and say, "Oh, I bought it this time, and we made this and that. It's lovely, and really enjoyed it." I don't have a number to associate with my sales. I probably should do a better job keeping track of repeat to click that metric in. But right now, with my newly formed website, before I was on a different platform, I'm going to be able to capture that for repeat sales. I do know there's somebody in Florida that I know has bought a couple times just because I've seen that name pop up a few times. For that reason, though, I have offered subscription services. You end up with like 2 free buckets a year out of that. So you could get a bucket a month club kind of a thing. But yeah, I am working on making sure that I can capture that metric as far as repeat customers go.
Got it. Love it. Last question, and it's got to be quick. Is a bucket of bread a subscription service?
Yes, you can use Bucket of Bread as a subscription service. You can get, if you go to the website, there's a subscription section, and you can get a bucket a month. I have a white, a wheat, and a 7 grain to choose from. You simply go there. It's a little bit of a less of a cost. You end up, like I said, about 2 free buckets a year out of that.
Love it. All right.
There's also a membership points program.
Love it. All right. Now we're going to transition to one of my favorite part of office hours, book recommendations. Chris, what book rec do you have for our audience?
So I've been spending a lot of time with this whole business adventure. I do call it that for a reason. And every once in a while, we need to take a break. So I thought, what can I do? I had this book that my mom gave me for a Christmas one year. And I'm like, okay, this needs to happen. Let me concentrate and at least give it an attempt. Break free, take that moment. So I recommend the only guitar book you'll ever need. Pick it up, grab a little guitar from your local music shop, and take a break.
How can you not want to hang out with Chris, y'all? I'm just letting you know, right? Wouldn't it make your week to come into like a cohort call and know Chris is going to be there to brighten the mood, right? These are the caliber of people we have around. I appreciate you sharing that. And I've been doing some of that my own, listening to some strength training stuff and, more physical fitness as well. But my book recommendation for the week is Dr. Bob Rotella's How Champions Think in Sports and in Life. And I got recommended this by my business coach, Bill Watkins, because, one thing I've been working on is my confidence. especially as I try to level up and go to get to that next level. And really recommend this book. It's great. One thing it encourages us to do, just deliberate practice is one. The other thing is the importance of visualizations. So a lot of us see ourselves as we're not where we want to be yet as entrepreneurs, but can we go ahead and sit and visualize what that feeling is going to be like, what that sales call is going to be like, what it's going to be like, Chris, when you get that $50,000 account, that $200,000 account, right? Because while we understand these kind of things with regards to sports, right, we don't apply the same level of mental and physical preparation to our businesses, and we should. So highly recommend that book. I want to make sure I take a moment to plug our, the holiday gift guide. Chris is on it, as well as countless other veteran entrepreneurs and military spouses. That is an easy way to support this community. While it's great to be, we love support veteran businesses, right? Get out there, spread this link, purchase some product. Anytime I go to a maker market, I always spend money, right? It's a tradition of mine because I want people to know that I believe in you. And as a community, we want to encourage our entrepreneurs to stay in the fight, especially as they continue to push through these challenging economic times. So check out the holiday gift guide. Chris, where can people find you at? How can they get a hold of you?
Well, you can start off by going to Bucket of Bread at bucketofbread.com. And once you're there, all of those social media icons are up at the top. Go out, give some thumbs, some likes, some follows, some shares. Tell your networks to tell their networks. And like I said before, if it's not trademarked, this is the next best thing since sliced bread. So thank you for your support on that.
And lastly, if you're not listening to the Transition Podcast, you are missing out. Again, I know things have been challenging for people. I've received multiple calls of people that have had to shut down their businesses, get a job, right? It's just the cost of doing business, right? I don't want you licking your wounds too long. I want you to know you're only facing what other people have met. And so last week on the transition, that was really a letter of encouragement to you all out there to just keep going and how to think about navigating these challenging times and focusing on the things that you have control over. We can't control the economy, right? We can't control all that stuff, but guess what? We can control how we show up to the world. We can't control practicing gratitude because if you're alive and you're breathing in 2022, let's not forget a lot of people didn't make it here with us, right? So I just want to encourage you to be grateful, be present, and feel encouraged. And I talked about this on last week's episode of The Transition. So be sure to check that out. I'd also like to acknowledge our event sponsor for the Transition Podcast, MetLife Foundation, for supporting us and just making these platforms possible, because without their support, we wouldn't be able to do what we do here, getting this great content to you all, profiling guests like Chris on here. So we appreciate you all. Make sure you're tuned into The Transition. Make sure you're checking out bunkerlabs.org. Until next time, everyone, peace, love, and have a great rest